Are we back? Are we here? Just trying to see what caused this. Okay. Sorry, the ads are going to go through again. Are we home? Is that what that was? Oh, it could be that too. I had a crash, so I'm checking some logs really quick. And I'll be right with you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we back. Let me log back into the game again. Oh, is there a little peanut there too, or no? Is she? No, I don't see it. Hold on. Sheetbot cam. I think it's this USB hub right here. I think I need to plug this into the back somewhere. Oh, little baby peanut. Little baby peanut. me see this works. I was starting to do more MSQ, and then the game told me, or my computer told me to fuck off. There she is. Let me adjust this camera. Look at that little poop. Look at her. Dude, is Lumia not working too? What's going on? My computer crashed. It froze, I should say. Look at her. Being a little chunky monkey. Yerp. So that's fun. Let me pop back into the game. Squeenix. One-time password. Thank you. Thank you for being patient with my poopy computer. Play. She should be home soon then. I think I had a feeling I'm getting ready to go do a dungeon. The MSQ was kind of making me feel like I'm getting ready for a dungeon. Okay, don't make me crash again. My little basket woven babies. Work on getting an Aether current. Hey, I forget my keyboard lights up when I get into combat. Welcome back, so am I. Yes, dear. Yeah, my Logitech. Okay. Okay. Hey lady, how you doing? I have it to where yeah, lighting sync. It goes into combat. Whenever I go into combat, it flashes red. I look down, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, let me go do this one too. I appreciate it. You sleep well. I just saw Lightbright at our Twitch meetup, and we were talking about how behind I am on MSQ. So she's gonna drag me through stuff. Hence the title. Look at this little chunky girl. My fries were extra salty today. Come on, Francis. All the moves are so pretty. Hey, how you doing? How you been? Long time no see. Been great. I'm glad to hear that. Stop fears. Yeah, we bought a house, so we're here for quite a while now. Husband retired, bought a house, he's back to working because we have to pay for a house. So, yep. Oh, we're still in Hawaii. We're still out here. We actually just had our Twitch Hawaii meetup tonight. I haven't in a bit. It's because I've been busy. Like everybody's been busy. It's been a little while. But I'll see him in chats every once in a while. Yeah, busy. Aw. No, that's not good. Gonna play EQ new one. Is that EverQuest? I never played EverQuest before. My uncle, I think, used to play EverQuest a lot. I think it was EverQuest. Yeah. Thank her, dearest. She's doing us a kindness. Not oh, she used to open generosity. Aw. Thank you, stranger. We're counting on you. Oh, man. That's cool. I'll probably watch people play it. I don't know if I'll be able to play it myself. I'll come back to you. Oh, actually, I wonder. I'll come back to you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure some of my other friends will be playing it. There's some games that I don't mind watching people play. I don't have time to play as much anymore, so. I'll be at BlizzCon. I'm excited for BlizzCon. But it's good to see you. Glad to know you've been doing well. It's always good to see some old faces, you know. You're a big one. No, 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 no. You're cute too. Yeah, I'm old as fuck, yeah. How long? It doesn't say anymore. Maybe it's just my stuff, that's why. Those guys are so cool. I'm mainly going just to see guildies and watch Overwatch World Cup. That's the big stuff. To see and meet guildies that I've known for a long time, and then I know, and then Overwatch World Cup. Let me go unlock this area down here. Ah, yeah. You too, Latex. Have a good one, man. Stop by anytime. I'll be around still. Come chill. No! Butterfly! Or moth! Whatever you are, you're pretty. No. I will. I don't know if he's gonna be at. I'm not gonna go to TwitchCon. I don't know if he's gonna be at any of the conventions I might go to. No, I don't want to fight you. You're cute. I don't want to fight you. I don't care. It's fine. No, you're good. You're good. I think I see him in Milton's channel a lot still too. What are you? No. What? Is that like some weird toad mushroom? Yeah, he is. Oh, the music changed. I appreciate it. I try to be. I try to put some good out into the world as best I can. Yeah. Ooh, what are you? Yeah, we're kind of talking about some of the stuff today at the meetup about how some of these IRL streamers are making other streamers look bad. The guy that interrupted Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill were like, dude, like, leave them alone. You can see they're with a camera crew. They're filming. Go away. No, you're good. Is this dungeon time? Or are we traveling elsewhere? Feel lucky. I try to surround myself with good people. I've been taken advantage of a few times, but I try and keep good people around. Beyond these doors is right of succession or no, disturbing the souls that rest here feels wrong. Our last respects at the very least. I appreciate it, Latex. That's true. Can all you see is her tubby tubby? Look at her. She's so ridiculous. You see what she's sleeping by, though, yeah? See that little purple contraption next to her? It's her favorite thing in the house. Her dang treat bot. It's a treat bot. So I have a thing that's called a treat bot, and chat can actually give her treats by giving bits. Yeah. Dude, how bad is the heat been? I appreciate it, Latex. She's a good little girl. She's a good little tubby tub. She's ready to complete her journey. Let's go. Yep, I knew it. I knew it was gonna be a dungeon. Now, do I wait for this other lady that's not gonna heal me to hop on? You can always hit me up on Discord. I'm always on Discord. So she's logging in. Are you gonna go live too or no? Yo. Yo. She's like, I'm not gonna miss out on this. She's gonna be quiet and she's gonna be like, watch this shit. And it's always gonna just be killing me. You just wait. I'll do this. I'm starting the stream together. So let me shoot the invite for that. And I can pop in whatever Discord you want. I don't care. You can call me too. I don't give a fuck. Oh, let me link. I'll be in the stream chat then, in my Discord. I think you're in here, yeah. Just pop into waiting to play, and I'll drag you in. Meep. I'll copy the link too, just in case, because stream together can be crappy. Did it not work? Hold on.
Freedom, he says. The decision is in my hands, he says.
I just played it.
Where's my freaking butt slider then?
Hey,
The
hey,
decision.
hey.
Oh, because there's two of them on there. Let me reject, delete. Dude, it's on there a bunch of times. Which one is it? Let me try it again. Should be this one.
You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail. You're charging too high prices for
Sweaters, glasses. You right to jail. Did I not play?
Freedom, he says. The decision
Hey, Saber Crit.
is in my hands, he says. Where's my freaking butt slider then?
Hey,
The
hey,
decision.
hey.
That's so good. Okay, it says it's linked, but let me test it out. Yep.
Freedom, he says. The decision is in my hands, he says. Where's my freaking butt slider then?
Hey,
The
hey.
decision.
Let me get rid of the purple one. Delete the purple one. There we go. Yeah, I'd gotten through most of the keynote. I think I was just near the end. Hello? There we go. Oh, she's in here. She talking to herself? Oh, wait. I'll be able to hear myself. Hold on. Hello. Okay, let me turn on. Okay, this should be working. Share chat's on. There she is. Oh. You had the power of the ultimate weapon and you squandered it.
Turning on my headphones would probably be good.
Maybe. And then turn off my stream. I hear we're echoing. Turn off my stream. I hear my
Okay, I'm jumping straight to the live scene. There we go. Why do I hear myself?
I don't know. Because I can hear myself too. What's funny is when I talk, I noticed your guest star starts to move around too. So mute your guest star.
Okay, there we go. Now I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. No, it's still going off.
Yeah, I can no longer hear you on my end.
That's so weird. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I can still hear myself, but I don't know why.
In the shared chat, I went in there and I turned all like the mic and the audio and the camera. I turned all that shit off.
Yeah, but somehow you're still coming through Discord and it's echoing. Do you have my chat up somewhere? Do you have my stream up still?
I turned it off. I exited out of it.
It's so weird.
I did, King.
Okay. No, that's fine. Yeah, we're pitching her a bunch of shit. Of course she had fun.
Okay, here we go. I'm logging in.
Okay.
Do you hear yourself anymore, or do you hear me anymore?
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Steve is poopy. No, I don't.
Good. I think it was my phone.
Steve is poopy.
That Steve is poopy.
He is. He's poopy.
King, I'm glad you're still awake, boo. All right, now I gotta come find you.
It's morning for him now, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Hi, Yuzu. I didn't say anything, Steve.
You said nothing.
Oh yeah, you gotta come over, don't you?
Yeah, I gotta come over to your server. Where you at? You're in Cactar.
Yeah.
You have mail. You should read your mail. King, I learned about mead today. And I'm drinking it currently, and mead is very fucking tasty.
Our buddy, one of Steve's boyfriends makes it too.
Not Steve's boyfriends.
Daniel, yeah. Daniel's making a batch right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to Cardania, and then I'm going to come over to Cactar where you're at.
Okay, I'm gonna tinkle really quick.
Of course she
Wait.
has mail. She does. Ethernet. Where is it at? Did I just die? What is happening? Lord? Visit another world. Need to go to... Oh, Cactar. Which data center are you on? Oh, Cactar's not on this one. Interesting. Okay, I think I have to log out and come see you. Data center. Ether Cactar. Oh wait, I think do I have to be on my character? I have to be on my character. Hold on. Start. And then I got to visit another data center. There it is. Visit another data center. Select world. Crystal. Nope. Ether. And then we're going to go to Cactar. Yep. Confirme. Confirmed. Proceed. All right. They said it may take several minutes, but I'm on my way. She is not in her chair. She gone. Oh, she's back now.
Hello. What's up?
I have arrived safely at the Ether data center.
Yay.
I forgot, like, before I log in, I have to, like, travel there before I log in.
Yeah. Soon, this shouldn't be an
it's
issue.
Like special and stuff.
Yeah, soon it shouldn't be an issue.
Where the real bitches at? I'm trying to bring real bitches back. All right, I am. Yeah, let's go.
That's so funny.
Yes. What job are you on?
Paladin.
Paladin?
This is the highest level I have.
Ah, okay. So you are. I think I need to add you as a friend.
Yes.
Let's see. Friend list. Player search. Search conditions.
There you go.
Asami. Hotaru. Yeah.
Meow. Meow.
Yes, Tabby. Yes.
Meow.
Meow. She's such a butt. I'm still upset with her. Not y'all giving her Tabby treats.
Yeah. Her favorite auntie.
Yeah, I bet. Even though she don't deserve them shits. Shut your
Do you
ass
hear
up.
her ass? She's like, meow.
Shh. Crackhead. Just because she's a crackhead. She sounds like them pink ass cats in Power World.
I the Cativas. Meow.
King, please. My emote right now is the shut your bitch ass up. After she puked on my husband's keyboard yesterday, we are not friends right now.
She what?
Free. She puked on Daniel's keyboard yesterday.
Is it a Razer keyboard?
know what fucking keyboard it is.
I was gonna say it probably deserved it as a Razer keyboard.
Yeah, I don't think it's a keyboard. I think it's a Razer.
I'm gonna laugh so hard.
But it's a futz.
She knows. She's like,
Oh my god.
"Ugh,
Ugh.
this is horrible. Their software
so
sucks so hard.
What, baby? All right, I'm ready when you're ready.
She's like, bitch, I'm here. She's going, pss, 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 and she's like, okay, I'm here. What do you want?
Can't stand us all. Oh, so you summoned your own void kitty, and now you have.
She's
to get
been
the kitty
laying down
treats.
next. She's been laying down next to the tree bot the whole time, just waiting, like a
And
starved
she's
little
still ain't got no
baby.
treats. That's crazy. That's wild.
She just looked at me like, meow.
Meow. Meow. Meow. Where's the treat bot? There's the treat bot here. Where's the fucking? How many treats we got? How many bits I got to give for a treat?
I think it's like 5 again.
Is it 5?
Should be.
Okay, let me go. Let me get a baby to treat. Confirm. All right.
She's gonna hear it. Treat dispensing in 30 seconds. She's gonna go. There she goes. She's right there. Oh, she got there so fast. So
Crackhead
fast.
What did we do? We went out to a place. Yeah,
Look at
there's your
her
treats,
waiting.
baby. Yeah, look at her. Oh, the baby. You can queue up the dungeon whenever you're ready, boo. To deserve 2 streams from you. We're helping our friend today, Chick Drummer. So, yeah, we're here. I told you I was coming back. It was either going to be Power World or it was going to be Final Fantasy, and we're here with Final Fantasy.
There we go.
There you go, baby.
At least somebody loves you.
So we're gonna go be her tank today, or her healer today, 'cause she's tanking.
So I'm gonna die.
You're not gonna die.
I'm gonna die.
You might die.
I know. It's fine.
You're gonna die.
It's fine.
I haven't healed in a while. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Blame
Again,
the healer. It's okay.
my divine veil is right here.
Yeah, you won't need it. I need you to pull everything.
What? Huh?
I need you to pull everything.
See, Steve could have been playing with us too, but he's out front, not being social and having a cigar.
And you know what? That's okay. If he wants to do what he wants to do, that's totally fine.
No, it's never okay. He can't do whatever he wants to do.
Trying to get where you're at. Where's my party? Party members. Yaktael. You're in Yaktael. Teleporto. In the Porto. Yaktael. Are you in Mamook?
I'm
Ibrax.
cat.
You're a cat?
Meow bitch.
Meow, bitch.
Oh, meow.
Meow meow.
Meow, bitch. Meow.
Meow. Meow. Meow.
Meow, bitch.
Meow.
No. Hey, crunchy me.
Meow. Meow.
Meow.
Meow. Excuse me, cutscene. My immersion. Shut the fuck up.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. You can. Oh.
So now she's actually gonna die.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh my God, we have a Lala.
Look at the Lala baby.
Not you being corpse dancer.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, that you didn't know?
Oh,
I'm a
Iron
healer.
Will might help.
You'll be fine.
Are we going? Are we moving? Are we going?
Yeah, go to the end.
This is as far as I can go. The door's shut.
Andy's in her element. Andy's in her element.
far as we can go anyway again. Everything is so shiny.
So many shiny things. Oh, yeah, I didn't warn you ahead of time. I do a lot of stars. There's a whole lot of stars.
Oh yeah, and I have my stuff turned up. I see everything.
I have all of my shits on too.
I see everything and nothing at the same time.
So you know, I have that respect for you. If I can't heal, that's my favorite job. Everybody, like when you have all the effects turned on, it's literally Final Fantasy hard mode because you can't see shit else.
Yeah, you see everything and nothing at the same time.
My effects take up the entire screen.
Oh, look at this guy.
All the stars.
Here, bitch.
I'm a tank all day, every day. Mushroom Rambo, did you see the tank?
Yeah, tanking I feel is the easiest job because all you gotta do is just stand there and get hit in the face and then move to certain spots.
You gotta be a, what's that word called? A masochist?
Yes.
Ooh, shit. Don't be standing next to somebody. There you go. Go look away.
Oh, then look away.
Mm-hmm.
Not pointing it directly at you.
Don't point it directly at the player.
Not even you.
Not even me.
Oh.
I mean, unless you want me to die. Not calling me out. Oh, shit. Don't say that. Don't.
Okay, hit by the bubbles.
Mushroom Rambo, we still love you. But that's what I'm here for.
I think I'm in a good spot. I'm not in a good spot. I lied.
You are not in a good spot. You are in a very bad spot.
So I can't make your job easy.
And you know what? That's okay. Troublesome bubbles. And so the bubbles are going to spawn from the boss and from you.
Yep.
So just be wary of the bubbles. I really should back into 14. Hey, we're running fucking dungeon trains if you want to get back into it.
Otherwise, husband bully. Bubble bomb, bubble, bubble, bubble bomb. Bubble bomb, bubble, bubble, bubble bomb.
Bubble butt, bubble, bubble butt.
I'm gonna stand by you. Can I do there?
Uh-huh.
Come here, bitch.
Come here. It'll take me a little minute to catch up. You don't have to catch up. I don't care what level you at. Let me know what you're doing, and I'll come to your healer.
Those are
You don't
cute.
need to catch up.
Read. Read. Because I have room in my bags.
If you're at fucking the level 15 dungeon, bitch, I will come help you. I do not care. I love playing this game so much. I don't care. I just want to play the game. I don't care what level we're at. I will help you. I love this game. And
Alright, I got my aggro. I'm gonna keep going.
through their experiences. Hey,
I'm running, I'm running, I'm running, I'm running, I'm running.
I'm running. I'm running.
Oh, hey, Ube.
Not Ube Matcha.
Ube Matcha.
Not Ube Matcha.
She should be glad I'm not coming to TwitchCon. I can't bring her Ube and Matcha.
Terrorist. I'm sad that you're not going. Legitimately. I'm like honestly super sad.
I had to choose one or the other, and I hadn't been to BlizzCon in a while, so.
That's because she's got a good ass healer. You know what pisses me off as a healer, me specifically, is when my tanks pull one group. And I'm like,
I kind of go off the vibe of like everybody else in the group. I'm like, if you guys want me to pull more, just tell me. And if they say yeah, then I go, okay, I'm gonna pull more. Not everybody's prepared to do that.
I'm here with the ignorance and the flim flannery. Yes.
What is that?
Welcome back. Aggro.
I'm grabbing. Hiya!
Grabby.
Hiya!
I just go with the
I'll
flow,
point him this way.
as you should. Spears. Gravity spears. Gravity spears. Gravity spears.
Jaeger bombs. Jaeger bombs.
How are you, my love?
Jaeger bombs. Ah! There's a angry pizza looking at me.
My pet peeve is when the healer decides to pull ahead of the tank. Ooh, you don't want me to heal for you then. You don't. Because I'll be a bitch sometimes and just do it because I know I can save you.
I also
Because
feel
I
like
know I
she'll
can
deal
save
with the
you.
consequences of.
And I'll deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
But I will pull ahead of you. Because I'm a damsel in distress and you have to come save me. Oh no! Oh, whatever shall I do? Take save me. But I'm an asshole. So I'll make sure you don't die though. I do that shit to Big Hurts all the time.
That checks. She asked me today if I knew who Big Hurts was.
I did. I forgot that you went to TwitchCon.
I'm like, we didn't just live together for like a week.
A whole week. If the tank is not pulling enough, I will pull for the tank and make the tank pick it up, and I'll make sure they don't die. To let them know you can pull more. I promise you will not die.
Paladin things. Oh,
Be over here. Over here.
I am over here.
Yep. Big ass enemy. Yep. Big ass enemy.
It's so nice when they go back to the middle on their own. I don't have to drag their asses anywhere.
It's pretty nice. Yeah.
Oh, sand and fire, got it. You want this? I'm gonna come give you a hug. You want it? You want it?
Stand on it. Fuck it. Stand it. Oh, good. You're finally awake. I'm good. Just tired and sore. Oh, love. Oh, shit. I don't know which one.
I think it is this side.
Run!
Nope. Vulnerability up.
It's fine. You can have 18 stacks and it'll be okay. It should be okay here. Yeah, it should be okay here. Ooh. Spicy. Alright, we got some mirrors. Alright, we're gonna go over here. bastard over here.
Come over here.
Yo. Period.
I still got my vulnerability because I stepped in it with my little pinky toe.
Not the pinky toe.
That's the baby pinky toe. When everybody knocks on the fucking table. Goes through so much abuse.
Abuse. The main reason I don't like it is because people have tank anxiety for a reason. As someone that used to have a lot, bitch, when I tell you tank and healer anxiety was such a huge thing for me until Stormblood. I didn't start tanking. I didn't start healing until Stormblood. And then I started tanking.
I'm going.
One night when I was drunk, and I started tipsy tanking during stream. I'm running to the top.
Piece of candy.
Piece of candy. I love how all the cards are tank cards. Like every card I have is like, nah, give it to the tank. Nah, give it to the tank. I remember tipsy tanking. Yeah, that was at the beginning of Light Bright streams. That was before I had like a no shit camera and like a setup. That shit was crazy.
That's in the way back wins.
That was in the way back wins. That was 2019 COVID. Yeah, that was day one.
Dude, did they make these mounts? Because these mounts would be dope. This little fucking
I
square.
think they do. Yeah, the squares. I don't know. I don't think they do.
Ain't got no butt sliders. Ain't got no little purple squares for mounts. What the fuck is this?
Ain't got that. That's crazy, right?
No butt
squares,
sliders?
No butt mounts. Crazy.
I do it like this, and then I do it like this, and then I do like this, and then I do like this.
And the whole reason I even got into streaming was because of Shay.
Nice.
Yeah. If y'all don't know who Shay is, she's one of my really, really good friends. And she just wanted to watch my gameplay one day. And I was like, well, what do I have to do to like let other people see it? And that was when I discovered Twitch and like how to like stream on Twitch was because Shay, we were just hanging out and she was like, I wish I could see the game that you're playing because you couldn't see it. I was just on my phone.
Yeah.
And that's when I started learning about Twitch and like how to like stream it to other people and the fucking rest is history.
Hell yeah.
I miss her too. She's been really, really busy with school. And taking care of her daughter and stuff.
Nice.
Hi Derek, hey Blair. Ah, this big bitch.
Oh wow.
Oh wow. I hope she's not upset with me. I think Shay got mad at me.
Why he got vaginas on his face?
Not vaginas.
He's got the uterus
Those are
face.
they're like goats. I guess those could be ovaries, I guess.
Uterus face.
Maybe not vagina, but like ovaries.
I mean, I had a cutscene.
Yeah, I think she might have been mad at me after the whole situation with Big Hurt. I think that's why she stopped talking to me as much. But I'm also trying to remember, you're in the best spot. You're in the best spot. You're in the best spot. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Come back. Come back. There we go. There we go. It is what it is. It was a very... You want to hear this part? Don't stand in the shits.
Get my ass up.
Who has aggro? Who has aggro right now?
Mela, I think.
You okay? You're okay? Oh shit. Run. You okay? Then get out of the middle. There we go. Good shit. Who did that rest? The summoner?
I think so. Yeah, Snowy Winters.
Snowy got my heart. I got to meet the person that started me to watch Twitch Con. Hell yeah. Don't be on that side. That's the bad side.
Don't stand on that side. That's the bad side.
We did. We did. I didn't see the first hand. Because I was reading chat. To the first hand. I was reading chat.
Oh, not giving the streamer excuse. Chat quit distracting her.
But distracting me.
Somebody clip that shit, please. Oh, I'm about to put a marker on them too. Let me eat my plum.
Beep, beep, beep.
Follow me. I'll be jumping up and down a lot, and then like their big ass fucking summoner stuff. Oh, we're staying here then.
Oh, 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 oh.
I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Wait, you don't want that?
No, not that. That one I didn't want. They want that one. They want that one.
Look how pretty that is. Standing right on this person.
Don't do that.
They told me where to go. God damn.
Beyonce's shooting over in my opinion. Why you saying that? Oh, I'm about to die. I'm about to die. That was super dope.
Turn my ass away.
No.
I got us. Look at that.
Wouldn't say overrated. She's just a pioneer or something like that. I will tell you one thing. That bitch can perform her ass off. Not her leaving immediately. Bruh.
Oh, Snowy.
Literally left immediately. I was like, don't leave, I need to give you my comm. They're like, give it to somebody else. Left immediately. You bitch.
I couldn't give my comm to anybody because you all left too.
They bounced. So if you're in a party, you can't
that's
give
right.
your comm to somebody you're in a party with. So both of them left.
I think they were in the same group too.
Yep.
Okay, now
I wish
cutscenes.
I could teleport to you. Let me go to Mamook. I'm gonna go to Mamook. Because some younger people these days might call Tupac overrated, but you have to respect the OGness. I don't think Tupac is overrated at all, considering where the fuck he came from. Him and Biggie.
Creation as well.
All right, where's my friend? Where's my friend?
I don't believe so.
I should be able to see you. Why can't I see
I've
you?
never seen anything like it.
I'm gonna cutscene. Well, it might be already outside of the thing still.
Then it's from an even older time.
Well,
It's one of these
it's
talkie
more.
cutscenes.
Allergans again.
The talkie ones. Oh, that's
While
fair.
careful
Whoa,
study would be
whoa.
required to
What the
confirm,
fuck do you mean by
It
that?
does not appear to be reminiscent of their designs.
Fuck do you mean by that, Mello?
Wow.
Wow.
Here, hold on, I got you.
What the fuck do you mean by that? Then you shouldn't have even said it. If you knew it was gonna happen, you shouldn't have said the shit.
I just want to know where her is it her father or somebody or her grandpa, right?
A golden light. Could it be?
There's a platform on the other side, but how do we get over there?
Oh,
Oh,
she hit the trigger.
trap activated. You've activated my trap card.
That's how, apparently.
Right then. Let's go and take a
The
look.
crackers are falling apart on me.
Listen, I'm trying my best. You know, like my life hasn't been easy the past like month or so. So I can't keep myself together all the time for you. Chat, you see what happened there is that I'm the cracker that I'm talking about. Because I'm white. You guys, she didn't get it evidently, so I gotta explain this sometimes.
I couldn't laugh. Laugh. I was. It was one of those shoulder chuckles. I was like, fuck.
No, I don't know better. What up, Maurice? How you doing? I hope you had a good time. I hope you had a good time tonight too, at the meetup.
Which one is
Seal.
Maurice?
That's Charlie,
Who
and then
that?
no mistake.
You didn't answer my question. And now she's ignoring me. It's crazy. This bitch.
It's my job.
Fuck. I almost called you the other word.
How do we open
Come and look at this.
All right, I'm going to. Would you say that you're a bored shade of flower yeast?
Well, the parts
I'm
of me
gonna go
that
grab-
see the outside sun are more yeasty
Your
color,
tablets might
right?
be a good fit, wouldn't you
Oh
say?
my god. Jesus Christ.
Wonder Bread.
Yeah, Wonder
Oh my
Bread.
gosh.
Oh my god. All right, let me grab some more mead while she's in her cutscene. I'll be right back.
I need a cork because I'm not gonna be able to drink it all.
I only had one drink. Don't make me fight you, bitch.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yo, this is like Stargate.
Leave it to Alfino. Is this it? The Golden City?
Though there is some resemblance, it doesn't quite live up to what the Yokwi described from their dreams.
Well done. Well done indeed.
No, I'll steal her crackers. Oh shit.
You, my dear daughter, have found the entrance to the City of Gold and triumphed in the Rite of Secession.
So we did it. We made it to the end.
You seem more perplexed than joyous.
It's just... This place is unlike anything we've seen in Tural. Never mind the peculiar stone. So I am given to wonder, what exactly lies beyond that gate?
Nothing less than the Golden City of Legend, I assure you. The circumstance prevents us from opening the gate.
I'm back.
as to what the
Welcome
city
back.
is and what Gall
you.
of Valdesium discovered all those years ago. This knowledge and more I will share with you after your ascension.
The Golden City is real. It took a while, but I finally found it.
Come, let us return to Duleola.
Home at last.
Nice. There's so many questions that he answered about this fucking city.
They will answer a lot of questions for you.
Ooh la la, what the fuck? Damn, girl.
That ain't me.
Makai Sage.
I don't know who that is. It ain't me.
Damn.
All right, let me see if I can find
Their
you.
name's
Who is that?
Courtney Love.
Where are you?
I'm back in the main area. I got teleported back.
Tuliala?
Yeah. Surprise!
It's literally waiting for you out here. That's okay.
Well-deserved rest.
Oh, the rest.
Down to the sky. Yep. See, no. Yep. Oh my gosh, we're a hair away from leveling up to 97.
A hair?
Hair.
What kind of hair? Like a cunt hair?
Like, yeah. Like a teeny tiny hair. Well, depending on how long, I don't know. I don't know how many people keep it all natural and how many people mow it. I don't know. You know. Do some
Inherit
hedge trimming.
A little bit, a little head trimming.
I'm about to be in some more cutscenes. We are relaxing and enjoying our stay. Try going back to 14 after a good 5-10 year hiatus. I was so lost. Yeah.
God damn, 10 year. God bless.
Look how big those bananas are.
Bananas. That's what she said.
Oh. What are you doing here?
Being a stalker.
Mm. I would probably thank you. Aw. What? What? I like how my glasses somehow stay on when my ears are on top of my head. It's amazing. His too.
Indeed. Thank you, Mello. The cat said meow meow meow. Meow 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 meow.
We say pss, 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 pss,
Meow meow. Pss, pss,
pss, pss, pss.
When cat says meow meow. So you guys, I got this at Target today because I have a whole bunch of pictures that somebody, not gonna say any names here, that somebody got for me at KawaiiCon.
Steve.
And I didn't have a place to put them, so I got a collage picture frame to put them in. And I'm probably gonna get like some backgrounds and shit like that to put them in there. But I'm going to take all of those pictures that Steve got me and put them in here. And it's gonna be all my Final Fantasy 14 pictures in here.
The thirsty ones
at work. Yes, the thirsty ones. Some of my thirsty ones are at work too, which is fucking fantastic. My stolen thirsty one is definitely at work. And I remember my my CMC came in, and he looked and he saw it sitting on my desk, and was like, "She's like half naked," and I'm like, "Yes, she is."
And
he just looks at me and he goes, "You know what? I don't even want to know." Yeah.
That's right. You don't.
Yeah. You don't. You don't. Because he stole is a hot mommy. Indeed. Exactly. Exactly. You don't want to know. And you know what? You don't need to know, because of critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with an extended free trial, Realm of Warren, with the award-winning Heavensward, now Stormblood, free up to level 70. That's my sticker says. Poor Mark. Chick knows Mark. You know Mark Shelley?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know you knew Mark.
Usually if Steve knows them, I've probably met them before.
I'd be keeping Mark on his toes.
Good.
That is not a good thing.
No, you keep doing that.
Miss Taurus Tendencies, my love, my dear. How are you feeling? How have you been?
Dude, how do my glasses stay on my head? Now that I'm looking at it more closely.
Don't ask questions. It's Final Fantasy.
But the fantasy's never final.
It is always final. I need to figure out what legs this bitch got on. Hold on. What legs you got on, girl? The Tycoon tights. Okay. I'm gonna have to get those. The Tycoon tights.
Oh, did you find Courtney Love over there?
Yeah.
Aw, Peanut, what are you doing? What is that face?
So I can get those with this outfit. I'm still limping around, but a lot better. Okay.
That is true. The end all be all is glam.
Derek, please. We love a good Ellison mommy up here. Look at her. Yeah.
What a crowd!
Ellisons
As befits
are fucking
the changing
baddies,
of
and
dawn
y'all don't even
servants.
understand that. Ugh.
Trying to have
the
a
fact
cheek
that she
off.
has horns like how I have horns, fuck. Have a cheek off, as we should. She just got more titties out than me.
It's starting.
But I got more booty than she do. Look. I got more ass. Cheeks. Cheeks. I got more booty.
The Dawn Servant!
Oh, my dear.
Look! He's here!
Mm-hmm.
The Dawn Servant!
Butt slider? Butt
The
sliders.
head of reason is resting
Butt
again.
sliders.
Thought he'd grace us for this occasion at least.
Tycoon tights. I need to find those. Just wait for that butt slider. Baby. The butt slider's about to go crazy.
Freedom, he says. The decision
Butt slider's about to go
in my hands.
stupid.
Where's my freaking butt slider then?
I feel like I look so much cooler than I do. Though.
I just played the butt slider video again.
Yes. You say you want me to have this. You say. Where's my freaking butt slider?
People of Tuliolal, you honor us with your presence.
Freedom, he says.
Oh, Steve just played it too.
The decision is
It's mine.
in
He's
my hands,
yes, he
he
says. Where's my freaking butt slider?
Where's my freaking butt slider? Butt slider gets you. Butt slider, get your butt sliders here.
Hey!
Butt sliders,
Like
get
I was
your
like,
butt sliders
hey,
here.
hey,
Hey, hold on. Wait a minute now.
hey.
I don't really have like a salute outfit, if that makes sense. I really don't have one.
What?
You know how like every character has like a slut outfit.
For on
Like,
this
yeah, I guess.
auspicious day,
Do you have a slut
we
outfit?
I'm here with
witness
my
the
boots and
dusking of
yeah, I'll show you my
one
slut
era
outfit when we're out of here.
and the dawning of the next. The succession of Dawn's servants.
But I'm out of these cutscenes.
Just
I'll find
can't
you.
wait. The cheeks, is it out enough?
But
I
I've
feel
talked
like,
for
like
long
the
enough.
cheeks are out, but it's not.
Allow me
it's
to
not
present the
smooth
claimant,
enough.
whose determination, wisdom,
It's not
and
sweet enough.
compassion guided them to triumph in the city of gold.
Interesting. What is this? Oh, when did I get 780 here? Girl, when did that happen? Lord?
My daughter,
Well,
Wook Lamont.
Wook Lamont, yay!
Oh, shit.
Huzzah!
Speak to Wook Lamont.
Huzzah!
My cat is giving me attitude now.
Long live the Dawn Servant! Long live
King, I thought you'd be in the
Tuliyollal!
bed by now, boo.
It's like 9:30 for him in the morning. Yeah,
Maybe? I don't know.
it's tomorrow.
You in a bed?
Growing up in this city, I used to think I knew all there was to know about Tuliyollal. But my journey showed me how much I had yet to learn about the
I
cultures,
gotta teleport back
histories,
to,
and aspirations of this
I'll be right back.
nation.
Sorry, I'm still in cutscenes.
Through the time-honored Ihana,
Oh, thank you
the
for the sub,
Hanuhanu
boo.
taught me how they nourish and cultivate
that was
both the
daring,
land
thank you for the gift of
and
sub,
their
my love.
bonds
Hey,
with
hey.
visitors.
Hey, that's like your third gifted sub in this channel.
And with their
Relax.
alpacas and tradecraft,
Calm down.
the Pelu Pelu showed me the depths of their patience and
You need to
fortitude
chill out.
to know when to push through and when not to
You've
push
been
your
gifting
luck.
a lot of subs here the last couple of days. I'm gonna need you to chill out.
From the
Well, we
moblins
gifted, we not,
and their
no,
artisans,
We're not.
I gained
We are
insight
not.
into
We're
the
not.
power of
We're chilling,
creativity.
and we are
And it is when we are
enjoying the
filled
gameplay.
with passion and
helping
bolstered by the
TikTok get the-
support
oh my
of
fuck.
others that we produce our best works.
Oh. She got a hype train. She got a hype train. She got a
love
hype
that song.
train. She got
Okay,
a hype
all right,
train.
okay. Now my finger slipped. For those of you that just got gifted subs, thank Mush Rambo
I was
and
moved
Pixelated
by
Prophet
the history
for
and
your
hopes
gifted
of the
subs,
Yokhui, who believe that death isn't the end,
Enjoy those emotes,
that we live
babes,
on so long as we
'cause that's
remember it.
crazy.
I felt
Thank the babies for
joy
giving you the
and
subs.
harmony in
Thank you,
Yaktel
lovelies.
when I tasted Shebruk Pibil, the dish that marked the beginning of peace
Flap's jacket.
between the Shibral
Can you
and
run the chat?
Ramuja
Stop.
after centuries of warfare.
Oh my god, what jacket? I don't even remember what fucking thing it was.
And I felt sorrow in Mamuk when I met with those who placed their
Yes.
faith in the promise
What was
of
the-
blessed siblings, and for this were burdened with great suffering.
Sort.
Through the understanding we forged, I'm hopeful that they
Let's
will find
chit-chat.
what they seek through friendship and community,
Chiton.
for we are all Turali.
Understanding with Mamuk? What sorcery did she
I
use
gotta
on
fix
them?
my glam. My glam's all fuckered up. The hype train is crazy.
Yeah, we got that shared train. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. She level 2 right now.
All of which is to say
She
that
just gave the biddies.
as
Thank you
I've
for the
come to
biddies,
know our
dear.
nation,
Thank you for the biddies.
I've seen the ways in which we
Waka.
thrive and the ways in which we still struggle. Some in
I'm Samuel L.
Cozamalca
Jackson.
must resort to banditry to survive.
Samuel Jackson.
A faction of Yokhui still cling to dreams of conquest.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Not everyone lives in peace and plenty.
I know. I'll give her
Thank you
some
guys for the
trees.
bits and the subs.
She's
Thank you
longingly
guys.
looking at her tree pot right now. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, the baby? The fur baby?
Yep.
And there's still so much of Tuliyollal I don't know. places I haven't seen, and people I haven't
How am I
met.
gonna fix this shit? I don't even remember what shit I had on.
That's why I
Sad face.
hope to keep learning about and from you, that we might build a nation where everyone knows happiness.
Yeah, P gets a cut.
Because my journey has taught me one
Don't check
thing above
clips for
all
that.
else. Your
Wow.
happiness is
Oh,
my
what did you
happiness.
do?
Oh my goodness, the music right now. Was not expecting a chorus. It's so inspiring.
I say mine, but a dawn servant
definitely
doesn't
gonna check
need
this
to
shit.
be a single person, does it?
Oh dear. What is she doing?
As soon as I figure out my goddamn glam. Because I don't remember what top I had on my glam.
Aw, thank you for gifting a sub to Shredding. I appreciate
Yes,
it,
gifted
Pixelated.
subs.
Thank you.
Yes!
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh! She gonna land on her feet? Oh my goodness. Just like a regular cat.
Kitty cat? Kitty kitty
My
cat?
father led Tuliholau to prosperity by the resolve and reason of his two heads.
Oh, are we?
But my one head can only get us so far. To further
There she is.
change our
There it
nation
is.
for the better,
There it is.
I'll need someone else. Someone with the knowledge and
know if I
insight
have any green
that
dye.
I lack.
I do, yes.
So what do you say? Be
Yeah.
dawn servant with me, Kona!
Let's go, Kona. Get out there, little cat boy.
Hamachi,
Kona is a fucking G.
are you certain?
Absolutely.
He also has a magical
You
cat head that
take
keeps his
reason,
glasses on.
and I take resolve.
Indeed.
Together, we make a full dawn servant.
You'll have no objections from me,
Do
of
you like that?
course.
Do I like that? I don't know if I like that.
But mine is not the approval you need.
I don't know if I like that.
Hewitt, accept
No,
it.
I don't like it.
During my time abroad, I experienced the benefits of foreign technologies, some of which I introduced to our
Too much
nation.
green.
Dirigibles now soar the sky in the
All right, I can
south,
fix my glam.
while locomotives traverse the land in the north.
Sick. Okay.
I was convinced that by imitating foreign powers, we could assert our strength and thereby deter
So
invasion.
goddamn pretty.
Yet despite my intentions, I failed to understand what I was too
goddamn
eager to
pretty.
cast aside.
We'll tell you
And
that
the very
I was
people I
running
wish
in
to
the least
protect.
expected what? I thought about running through expansions again on a new character for Evercold. I am considering it. Yes, Shredding, enjoy the emotes, boo.
My own journey has taught me that culture isn't a hindrance to progress,
Where's she at?
but a shared value that binds
Me?
us, connecting
Yeah,
lives
still
and
in cutscene.
generations.
They're doing
Damn,
their big.
that's a long ass cutscene.
They're doing their big speeches. She just got named Dawn Servant. Now she's having Kona come over to become Dawn Servant with her.
Yes.
With your blessing, I vow to help Tuli Yolal prosper in a way that honors the hopes and heritage of all her peoples.
I am now watching.
My esteemed predecessor,
would accept
Thank you guys
nothing
so much
less.
for the level 3 hype train. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
For
I'll
ultimately,
get pissed in her cut and treats.
I harbor the same wish as my sister. To give you cause to smile. That is my heartfelt desire.
Aw. They're
That's
both
not fancy being
they're both good
alive.
people. I mean, it's day 2, yeah.
It is day 2.
We're clapping.
Oh, I can't wait to play this fucking job. And I need to know, who is the Roe? I need to find out who the Roe is, because the Roe has got to be feral. He big and he real strong.
Glad this didn't go to waste.
You real big and strong.
Choo-choo.
Hype train.
This is the Lay of Legacy, the part of the Tulihyola saga where you and I become the next Dawn servant.
Oh my gosh, not the cow chewing at level 5. I'm looking at the emotes.
The cud.
Good heavens! Don't tell me this is what kept you so busy ahead of the ceremony.
Thancred.
Just so you know, I didn't decide this on a whim. After reflecting on all we've been through, I realized it was the only answer.
With this, both my brother and I have worthy successors.
Okay, I'm gonna get some rest. Just want it to be
He
wholesome
would
and not
have
put.
been proud.
Before you go, let me see this fucking edit. Before you leave, let me see this edit. Because I don't even know what I did. I don't even know what I did.
Of course you knew.
Oh my god. Sir.
It's been 3 years since my brother left us.
Wow.
It cannot be. The head
Did you
of
see
reason
the
is no
silent
longer
laugh
with
was
us.
crazy.
Not
I was
his-
just like, oh, fuck.
Not his brother being dead on his shoulder.
Tidings.
Right?
I didn't
Dead.
want to believe it.
DED the whole time.
Holy shit.
I'm sorry I never told you.
DED has
We
been dead this
wanted
whole
the
time.
people to rest easy until our successor could be chosen.
Just
Could
the
you
the
imagine
question is
having-
like how do work? How does
They don't.
how does rest of body work with half gone?
Planning the
So
right
he can
was
still,
my
he still has
brother's
control
final
over all of
duty.
his limbs.
He was
His head's just
determined
dead.
for it to serve
The
the nation's best interests
Uh-huh.
and labored nigh without
His
cease.
brother has been dead for a long time. And he has had to live with his brother being
And
dead
then
on
he
his shoulders
died,
and keep it from everybody.
forcing me to do the actual work.
Jeez.
Sneaky
You know how
bastard.
fucking depressing that is?
Yeah.
Having to grieve that by
But he
yourself
did well.
and not tell anyone.
I have to give him that. The outcome speaks for itself.
Not even your own daughter. You can't even allow your own daughter to grieve his passing.
Nope.
Your daughter and your son can't tell them that they're dead.
quite to the original script, your new Dawn servant rises. May they shine resplendent, and their rule bring light ever greater to Tulio.
That's the crazy part is that he just lives the rest of his life with his dead brother on his shoulder. That's crazy. Imagine the smell.
I think because he's still alive, there aren't like the cells.
He's just
don't
like
die.
the brain's just gone.
Yeah, the brain's just gone, but the cells don't die because he's still alive. I don't know how I feel about the physical range job being Falconer. I don't know how I feel about it.
Did they announce it already?
No, they didn't announce it. They're not going to announce it until Tokyo.
Oh. Well, hold on, dear.
But there are a lot of clues leading us to believe that it's going to be Falconer. But I also think that that could be like Beastmaster, like leaks. You don't like Falcons?
Not the feats for free.
I'm indifferent about Falcons, but
treats for both of them.
I don't know.
Fight.
Changes in the air.
I was thinking it was going to be something
because of our little
liberated, the
firebrand.
Falconer. Not you making your cats fight.
No, they're just having treats together.
Crazy.
Little cutie pies. Here you go. Wow.
Bah. There's something over here for me.
God, they devoured those treats. All right, now
It's
you're
a quest, and I don't know what it
Now you're ready to
is.
see them fight? I'm gonna dispense a treat.
No, don't make them fight the babies. Animal cruelty.
Oh no, he got it. One more.
But I guess it'll be interesting to see what the job is going to entail.
There we go.
Every Aylmer father's daughter, that one.
Yeah, 'cause some people were talking about it because of the trailer. Speculating if it
and
was Falconer.
I don't know if that is
I'll be
Falconer
watching
or
where
if
you
it's
steer this nation,
like
lass,
a Beastmaster job.
with what time I've got left.
Yeah, because they had already announced Beastmaster, so.
Yeah. So if they already announced it, I guess that kind of has to be. I still want Alchemist as a battle job. I feel like Alchemist could be a battle job. Based on like the type of stuff that I've seen in like Octopath Traveler of Alchemist being like a no shit job, I feel like that could be a really cool job. But I think because they have made it as a crafting job, they're not gonna do that.
Oh shit!
Yeah, got him, coach.
Not the happy sound, not the happy music after that. not the fucking jazzy music. Or the swing music.
Jazz.
What the fuck? Not right after that. That's some fucked up shit.
Deleted. Jazz music. Jazz hands.
I know that's exactly what just happened. Oh my god, another cutscene.
I'm wearing my Black Mage necklace today, y'all. Look at it. I'm wearing my Black Mage necklace today. Meow.
Look at it.
Look at it.
Look at them.
Titties. Not hello? When you gonna blow some shit up then? Well, I'm helping her because she's tanking and I'm being her healer. We'll blow shit up later. Titties. 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 I need fire and brimstone? Ooh. Or something. We might do that a little bit later. I need her to feel confident in the healer's healing abilities, that she won't die so she can pull everything.
Listen, during these cutscenes, she could have been like slaughtering pals or something.
I don't know if I can have Power World and Final Fantasy open at the same damn time. If I'm honest. I don't know my computer capabilities. I guess that would be a good test, though. I guess.
We'll see if she crashes, guys.
Not crashes, God.
Aw.
Because I thought about it, for sure.
Aw. Oh, I'm gonna be calling her by her regular name.
Yes. Just want y'all to know meat is my new favorite thing. Yes, I said chai tea. Interesting. Interesting. Did you learn nothing from Spider-Man?
He got himself some TT.
He got some TT? Oh, chat. Fuck. Look at this shit. Okay, so this book I got, House of Leaves, right? This thick-ass book. I saw somebody that watched The Backrooms, right? And they said, if you are into psychological horror, like The Backrooms, you need to read this book. So I got the book. I was unprepared for what was in the book. I'm just gonna show you one of the pages. Also, this book has an appendix, BT dubs. There's an appendix in here.
Spent $21 on one meat out of that store on your way out? Damn.
I'm gonna show you one of the pages from this book.
Wait, I gotta hide around the corner really quick.
This is the page I'm supposed to read. That's the page I'm supposed to read. This one. This is the page I'm supposed to read. Let me see if I can find the one where the text is backwards. Because there are several pages on here where the text is like fucking backwards. There are pages in here, it's just one line. That's a page. The lady saw me walking out and was like, did you find meat yet? And I got trapped. I hope it's good. Oh, Lord.
Do you like my sexy outfit?
Not the ghost. It's so sexy.
This is my sexy outfit.
This is another page. Right here. The text is upside down. Like, you have to read from here up. That's the text in the page.
This is Steve's favorite.
That's your favorite? Oh, the fucking... the slime?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. There are multiple pages where it's just this.
This is my real sexy outfit.
Oh yeah, we love a doctor. We love a good doctor. So much money. That shit's sexy as hell. Multiple pages where it's just this. So, what is going on with this book? I don't know. I need to read it and fucking find out. We love a good play doctor. I thought the lighting was just blown out. No, that's the actual book. Huh?
This is my usual with Steve right here.
I can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, look at this shit. Look at this. Like, there's regular text, like all of this is regular text, and then in the box the text is backwards, where I have to read it.
Uh-oh, Steve's here. Steve's here. Oh no.
Hi, Steve. Like, this text is backwards, so I have to put it up to the light, and I have to read it through another page. Like, I can't wait to read this fucking book. This book is about to be an adventure.
Eat my bread.
Is he gonna eat your bread?
I'm just gonna eat my bread. While Steve does whatever.
Whatever the fuck he's doing right now. Yeah, throw money at me. Throw money at
You've seen his uniform, right?
Uniform?
Yeah. You've seen that before, yeah?
Get the fuck
It's khakis.
Get out. What is that? What? Examine. Because now I need it. Now I have to have it. Southern Sea shirt. Southern Sea shirt. Best man slacks. Oh my god, it's the way I'm about to have the khakis.
And the Gobby Bag Brown.
And the Gobby Bag Brown. I'm about to get my khakis right now. Chief, 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 chief.
That was like one of the first outfits he made, and that's all he ran around in for a long time. Not the taco. Oh wait, where's that? Hold on. Where is it? 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 Where is it?
It never occurred to me in this game to create fucking Chief khakis. It never even registered in my fucking mind to create Chief khakis. That's actually crazy. I thief. And he's got the fucking sailor patch on.
Where's the... Wasn't it like an eat chicken emote was the one that we got from Jollibee?
Yes, the eat chicken one, yeah. I did not get that emote off principle. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do it. As a melanated Elizan, I cannot be out here in these Eorzean streets eating fucking chicken. I'm not doing it to fucking fuck guys. Not doing it.
Oh no, not the push-ups.
Yeah. 1, 2, Hoo-yah 0. Hoo-yah 0. Look at them push-ups. Well, he's breaking the 90. He's breaking the 90. He's breaking the 90. Look, all that senior chief money over there. That retired senior chief pay. That retired senior chief pay. You know, I'm just trying to be like you. I'm just trying to be like y'all. Not you kicking him in the nuts, bro. What is wrong with you? That man is literally your sugar daddy. What are we talking about right now? Crazy.
Don't you put your
Wild.
hand on your hip all sassy like? Maybe it's his thing, right? You don't know him. You don't know him very well.
That's the arrangement. I'm sure that that's not the arrangement. I'm sure that is not the arrangement.
There he goes. There he goes.
Yeah, yeah.
There he goes.
Yeah,
there he
yeah.
goes.
Slap it. Slap it. Slap it. Abuse. Abuse. A toxic relationship. This is a toxic relationship.
This is what we do in the clubs.
Look, this guy's like, what the fuck's going on over here? I'm just sipping my tea. I ain't got nothing to say about it. I ain't got nothing to say about it.
I swear I got the email. I just don't know where it is.
Yes, 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 yes. Brilliant. All right, what we doing next? What's the next part? Scaring away the locals as we should be.
Ew, so he gave me a rose. So I gave him 69 gil.
Nice. Let me see an attention for Seer Chief. We got Seer Chief. Who is this? Oh my God, who the fuck is this and why are you so gorgeous? Hello? They're my friend, obviously.
Uppies.
But the who is this? It's you? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, Mellow. Oh, Mellow. Oh, Mellow. Oh, Mellow. I'm fucking like blushing right now. Oh my god. You are so handsome.
I do like Steve's outfit.
Oh my god. Chuck Ellison's.
The Raven or the Crow.
You are so handsome. Oh my god.
The braided hair is a nice touch too.
Okay. All right. Let me not fangirl too much. Let me not. Get it together, bitch. Get it together. Get it together.
Fine. I gotta put on my sexy outfit. Hold on a second.
Look at Steve, please. Usually can't see his face because I wear armor like this. You are so handsome. Your character is so handsome. Baby, show your fucking face. Oh my god. You know what? That sounds so fucking. It's not it's in misogyny if you're a female. I don't know what to call that. I don't know what to call that. Sir, why are you dead? Sir, why did you die? I might be a little bit smitten. The cat girl blew him up? Wow. Oh, crazy.
Nope.
In his favorite outfit, too.
Nobody likes
Wild.
snitches. Shh, shh.
Oh.
Warning. Life support failure on all decks. Abandon ship.
Abandon ship. Ship.
Oh, not the chicken outfit. Not the chicken outfit. Listen, I got Steve's favorite outfit. There you go. That's Steve's favorite outfit.
I think I'm upset. I'm not sure if I'm fully upset yet, but I might be upset. Did you tell me that you had a melanated Ellison? Not that scared the shit out of you. Did you tell me that you had one? I don't remember that. I don't remember. I'm not gonna be honest with you. The alcohol probably has deleted so much shit.
Yeah, keep the gloves on for safety.
I don't know if I've ever seen it because you had the gear on. I don't know. Because I feel like if I had seen his face, I would remember that because your Ellison is so handsome.
Oh, not Steve to show off the thighs.
Steve, where the thighs at? Let me see the thighs. Oh, okay, thighs. Honestly, it might be the hair difference. You think so? Look, sun's out, thighs out. Or however
The smooth
it goes.
jazz is definitely adding to this.
Had a different hairstyle before. I love that for us. Your character is so hot.
Oh, this poor guy's still over here.
No, your character is so hot. Don't ever change that yourself. Look at the chesticles. Hold on, let me call my kid real quick. Hold on.
That's pretty cool looking. I'm gonna refill my water.
Okay, the kiddo is okay. She went out for food a little while ago, and then I hadn't heard it. Ugh. I love you too. All right, so what part of the storyline are you in, love, so we can help you do the things to the stuff? Because we out here bullshit, right? Oh, she is not even in her chair. She's not even in the chair. Yeah, she's AFK. Lol. I'll do this thing for you really quick, then I go back to here to do script stuff. No, you got it, boo. She just ghosted. She hella ghosted. I can't invite Steve to the party. Steve, them cheeks is out, boy. It's very Hawaiian of you. Very, very Hawaii attire. I am sometimes tempted to see what you tells. When I see you on with it, you're gonna do it. You gotta catch me, because when I log in, I'm on, I'm logging in, I'm going into, I got shit to do. So if you see me on, send me tells. Send me a tell, and we'll fucking run dungeons together. But you gotta catch me before I go on the duty, because I usually assume that people are not online because of like the time difference between me and you guys. So I assume you guys are in the bed. I might do stuff if I log on. If I log on, I have a purpose. I'm logging on to do shit. So if you see me, message me. This bitch.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back. I'm like having a whole conversation with you and you were like gone.
That's how I was gonna refill my water.
Like, what are we doing in this next storyline? And then I look and I was like, oh, this bitch chair is empty.
Yeah, let's speak to Wuk-Lamont.
Wuk-Lamont?
Wuk-Lamont. Christy, wanna come with us on some dungeons? We can do some dungeons, I don't care.
We can do some dungeons.
Well, no, dungeons?
Dungeons? Did you get food?
I did.
I have like yogurt covered pretzels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. I got you. That's fair. No, you're okay.
Oh my God, this man's. What
the man's doing? What the man's doing? I tell you what I'm doing. I'm eating a burrito.
You get Taco Bell?
Mm-hmm. She sure did. Mm-hmm.
At least the burritos don't have lettuce in it, yeah? Right?
Something like that.
Nah, she's safe if she doesn't have lettuce.
Chick drummer?
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
My daughter asked me who I was online with.
Mm-hmm.
How the mechanic stuff turned out? It turned out okay. The car got fixed, but we're having an issue with the power steering right now, so it's kind of like, yeah.
Ma'am.
911 with the burrito.
Ma'am.
What?
Ma'am, what are you doing? She's so stupid.
Is it the kitty baby?
Stupid.
Is the kitty baby being dumb?
She walked right through my headphones. And now she's wondering why she's tangled in my headphone cable. So it's pulling my headphones down.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Don't stand on the fucking headphone cable.
She said, I do what I want.
She did. She went meow. Don't give her treats for that shit. Look how ready she is for it. What the fuck? Look at that. She's so ready for it to come out, her little tail's wagging.
You say, give me the treats. Give me the treats. All right, I'm ready for the next part. I'm ready.
We can do dailies right now too.
Oh shit. Well, I was gonna heal. Never mind. No, it's okay. No, don't withdraw. Fuck. Ma'am, you can't withdraw like that or you will incur a penalty. Ma'am. You cannot withdraw like that or you will incur a penalty. Penalties do exist in this game.
What? You're crazy.
Gotta rank up my chocobo. Not rank 0. Have you never put anything into your chocobo?
Go look at mine. Okay, bye. Iron Will is on now. Here, bitches.
Stop here. Stop here. Oh, shit. Well. Hi, Pete. How do you?
Hello, dear. Okay, bye.
Yep, keep going. Hold this group and the next group. Keep going.
Let me get my aggro. Ow! Ow!
Yep. Keep going.
So we gotta stop this guy from doing something, yeah or no?
The summoner, yes. Okay, stop with this group. If you can stun him, you'll be good.
Anyway, my global cooldown.
That group up top. Target the summoner. Let's do the board call. Nice. Very good. Pretty good, yes.
I remember where those are.
Pretty good, yes. Pretty good. Oh, my goodness, car size. I saw it was split my XP with it and I'm greedy, so I stopped. Oh wow. Well, now you're gonna have to fucking rank it up.
Well, at least they won't redo the. Well, they won't bring it back down to 0 for new Chocobo rework. Yeah, that's good.
Good stuff. Yeah, you got 6 aces once. I don't know how long it took for me to get my Chocobo to the rank that he's at. Because I'm max rank right now. I don't remember. Ow. Ow.
Okay, bye.
Companion is 20. Max rank 20.
I don't even know what my Chocobo's at.
Estella is a baby. We got a sprout in the group.
That's why I was worried.
Yeah, that'll be fine. I'll heal you through it.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, Beltron.
Let's stop here.
We can stop here.
Stop my healer. There we go. That's my purse.
That's my purse.
I don't know you. Ah. There's a treasure coffer. This candy.
Monk. My husband used to love Monk, but he does not like Monk as much as he used to.
Why not have Aggron? Get over here. Oh, fuck. Hello?
You're fine.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for still being here, King.
Yes, King.
I know you've fallen asleep. Oh no, not you outranging me. Oh no. Oh shit. I need my 1000 positional and Grease Lightning upkeep. That's crazy. I'm gonna pull everything because Grease Lightning. Oh, Tank, you're not gonna pull fast enough before my Grease Lightning falls up? Fuck you. I'm pulling everything.
Oh, this is me in the morning when I first wake up. I'm looking in the mirror.
Oh. Don't stand in the pool.
So I'm using the streamer excuse. I was looking at chat.
Yeah, okay.
Not getting hit with murder hole.
Murder hole?
Not when this guy's looking like a whole glory hole right now.
Murder hole. Apparently, I named my bird Aries. Interesting. Is he a red bird? Uber, why are you dying? Boo Bear, why are you dying? I must have been playing God of War at the time. That's fair. That's fair.
Whee!
Hell yeah, Peloton. Because normally I would have named it something Japanese inspired. Aries!
I'm running.
And that base keeps running. Zeus!
We look at that, yeah? We look at it? We look at that? Right?
Yeah, you totally look at it. You absolutely should look at it.
Stare at the eyeball?
Oh, just look, just stare directly at the eyeball. Stand in all the things.
Oh, hello.
Hey, that's my job to stand on the things.
That's true.
We don't love you any less, Steve.
Maybe. How come that's not working?
I mean,
I need
I
to check and see what's going on with my freaking Lumia right now.
I might need to sprint here. Yeah. She is pulling everything. Pull on things. Ooh. Spicy, very spicy. Very spicy. Very
I got cooldown still.
Speaking of God of War, I'm curious on the plot of the new one. So I'm pretty sure this is LaFay trying to find her way back because she was dead. DED.
Not the DED.
DED.
Turn it off and on again.
Oh no. Oh, did I? Oh no.
My bad, I'm coming.
Oh no.
I was killing Steve. I should have left it.
Did I aggro the boss? Oh dear. Oh no. I'm out of mead.
See, you didn't even need that thing.
You're out of mead?
Winch, bring me another. And by winch, I mean by child.
This is me when I get out of bed.
Oh my god.
There you go, I get
I'm
points back.
in old-fashioned, and it's delayed.
It's delicious.
Oh, hell yeah. Point that ass towards you guys.
That's that ass. Oh, not the booty. Oh, not the booty.
No, it ran away from my... It thinks that it's a bad tether. It's a good tether.
I thought it was a bad tether for a second. I'm gonna hide now. Meow. Meow. I do that. Rude. How dare you target me? Rude. Just rude.
Alright, combination.
You got
Where?
Stella.
There we go.
Stella!
Stella gets all of them.
Stella! Ooh, and monkey ear. Very good. Very good, Stella. Amdapur Keep has ended. Indeed. Do you have a story you have to do?
Yeah.
Nice job. Chicky chick, chicky chick, boom boom. Chicky boom dynamite.
Never.
Chicky boom boom. Chicky
Never.
boom boom. All right. More dailies for Steve, or are we going back to storyline?
I can do whatever.
Make her do storyline. I'm good.
Okay, go do storyline.
Fine. I'm leaving.
Do it.
I'm leaving. Gotta talk to my homegirl over here.
Let's see if I can pull up some Pow World and see if my stream doesn't fucking crash.
Yeah, I can go craft in the meantime.
Hell yeah, crafting.
Tacos? Tacos? We gonna get tacos?
Tacos?
Tacos! Oh, we gonna get the tacos!
Check out this gear.
Wait, which year? Let me see. Before I boot up Pow World.
I will
Oh,
say,
that looks
boot up
nice.
Pow World in windowed mode. That way you don't really kill your machine.
I gotta put it in windowed mode.
Yep.
And that looks real nice, friend.
Yeah, this is the stuff that my friend gave me. It's all pentamelded or triple meld.
Is that hats?
Triple meld, yeah.
Is that hats?
That looks good. You need a meld in your hammer.
Yeah, I need new. So the reason why I don't have main hand, offhand is because Cosmic is the relic quest that I'm working on those.
Ah, yes. I was trying to get my meld back from my 720 crafter stuff. Did it kill it? Them shits always broke. They will. They're like, it's what, like 40%? And that shit sucks.
If you need stuff, I puka everything, so let me know what you need.
Gotcha. Thank you, boo.
I'm still the same old me. No formalities. No, you're the Dawn Servant. Too disrespectful it is to address you without your new title. Oh. Dude, that's how you like short circuit somebody. It's disrespectful to not call them Dawn Servant. The Dawn Servant's ordering them to not do formalities. That's how you short circuit somebody's brain.
Uh-oh. Graphics. Let's see. Windowed.
I'm here, I help.
It's on windowed.
I like the pillow hats. They're neat. They're little ducks.
I like the big bird people.
You can change the EXP rate
Yeah.
in PALs?
Yeah.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother.
You can play however you want with your server.
That's crazy. 20% fucking EXP rate? That's crazy.
It's fun when you mess around with the INI and you increase, or you even just mess around in the settings, and then you increase the amount of PALs that are in an area, and then you watch your computer just catch on fire.
Fucking die.
Bayside Bevy. Let's go. And the tacos. We are going to enjoy the tacos. Even Tokies? Tacos.
That's crazy.
This idea is dildos.
I gotta
It
download
looks
this one.
like my computer is okay.
Old.
Nothing happened. I have 2 games open right now. I have Final Fantasy open right now, and I have Pal World open right now. So I have 2 kind of big ass games open right now, and I wasn't sure if it was going to eat my stream. But it looks like we're okay. I picked up a fucking spear orb, and I went from level 4 to level fucking 9.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my god. There should be a tower over here somewhere. Nope, looks smooth to me. Nice. It's looking like we okay. And I get to keep your jazz music on in the background, King.
This idea is dildos.
Who is that? He kind of handsome. Who this? Hey, you got a minute? Here's the deal. I've decided to become a pal breeder. That's right, I'm gonna breed my very own pals. Only problem is I'm stuck at square one. They say you need cake to make magic happen at a breeding farm, but that kind of thing is not really in my wheelhouse. Can you bring me 5 cakes? 5 cakes? How the fuck do I get cakes?
Oh, you gotta make
Besides
cakes
the cake
already?
I already have. Crazy, wild. So I have ran to an area, mellow. I've ran to an area because I'm trying to find Cognito.
This idea is dildos.
My bird baby. Who are these babies? What level are they? They're level 13. I'm not fuck with them. No sirree, Bobby Jr. Sure am not.
Ma'am, just pick up another pal ball and you'll be that level.
What the fuck is that big ass egg over there? What the fuck is that?
Just pick up another pal ball. You'll be that level right away.
I'll be level 13 immediately. Girl, what is this fucking? Oh, it's a dragon egg. It's a big ass dragon egg. It's a huge dragon egg. You need cake to make magic happen at the breeding farm. I'm like, duh. You need the bunda.
Here you go. You like this one?
This idea is dildos.
Well.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
This idea is dildos.
It's dildos. Hugo. Kraken. Okay, which way am I going? I need to go to the north. I need to go that way.
Titties.
Titties. She sounds so happy when she says that. I mean, titties make a lot of people happy.
Whip me, daddy.
Snorlax scared you?
Husband, please attend to our guests.
That's me
Why
talking to
did
Steve.
Snorlax scare you? Oh, wow. Is that how you yell at him before people come over?
Mm-hmm.
Husband! Husband!
He's big as hell for one. I looked at him as like a big ass teddy bear.
Does that mean Mello doesn't like Totoro either?
He might not like Totoro either. I can see how Totoro would be scary. Bears also terrify me, and Snorlax was pretty bear looking. So yeah, Snorlax is pretty bear looking, yes. That's fair.
Now we're just talking to everybody in the town.
Like them birds. Them birds are hella aggro.
Which ones?
I don't know what they're called. Nightwings. The Nightwings.
Oh, yeah.
The Nightwings are super aggro.
Yep.
Nah, they're fine. Bullshit. Just give them a little treat. Oh my god. Whoa, 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 whoa. Not you hovering, not you camping a spot. I can't deal with two Nightwings.
In fact, did not pick the bear. Oh no.
He did not pick the bear. Oh my god, the wolves are aggro too.
Of course, the Moblins' hospitality. They're cutie pies. Look at them. Everybody's helping each other out. Everybody's one big happy family now. Minus the guy that just got offed, and then we just played some fucking swing music right after.
Back up. Oh my god. Oh my god. My pal. My pal. Don't bite me.
Aww.
Don't bite me. Oh shit. I missed. I missed.
Bam.
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm gonna die. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, I did restart the bot, didn't I? I'm like, why is it going up again?
Almost died.
Oh, Steve's ordering the gold saucer, are we? Are we in the gold saucer?
Stay on target, lady. Do your MSQ.
No, I just see the teleport offer for the gold saucer. I'm like, I know where Steve's at.
That was me. I had to pick up my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so bad to point where they bothered me in games and such now. Okay, that's not bad. Like how some people are with spiders. Look, arachnophobia is real. How do I heal myself in this game? Can I heal myself?
I mean, you get your health back over time. Make sure you're eating too. You should be able to make armor by now if you don't have any on already.
I have some. I have an overshield too, so it's not too bad.
Okay.
I have an unwarranted fear of crustaceans, so yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
He doesn't like lobsters?
He does not like lobsters. Oh, are y'all fighting the Syndicate thugs?
Does that mean you can't listen to the crab rave at all?
I had to leave to do Air Force One. Sorry.
You're good.
It's a new one. They did new Air Force Ones. Neat.
Yeah, they have new areas that the Air Force Ones gets into. How do I open this? Oh, it's a mimic! Oh! Oh! It's a mimic!
Is it the Mimog? Get the Mimog!
Yes! I shot it and it ran away. He ran away super fast. I didn't realize there were mimics in the game.
Oh yeah, they're fast as hell. The little Mimogs are adorable.
Oh, yeah. Yo, that mimic was fucking gone.
Yeah. If you see the little mimics around or the Mimogs around, you gotta like have wood on you to put up a barrier and then try and get them. It's a whole thing. You gotta set a trap. It's ridiculous how freaking fast they are.
If Ski-Daddle was a fucking pal, that literally that fucking pal was the embodiment of Ski-Daddling. That was crazy. That bitch was gone. I didn't even see what direction he ran in. That was crazy. It's like when you see a turtle sprint for the first time. Yo, the first time I ever saw that shit was crazy. The first time I ever saw a turtle no shit sprint, I was like, no, this is AI. There's no way turtles sprint that fast. Oh, I picked up a piece of technology. I'm now level 14.
Oh my gosh.
This XP up is stupid. All right, let me not. How that propaganda misinterpretation fooled. Fools.
Nice way to just get everything unlocked to pretty much play creative mode. At least how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you aggro? Don't be aggro. Now, if I ever see a sloth sprint, yo, that would be crazy. Store the turtle in the hair? Lies. All lies. All of it. All of it lies. Oh, there's a teleport here. Where's the teleport at? Is it up there? I think it's up here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's up there.
Gotta run so far.
Speaking of sloths,
look at this hoe up here still.
With this mellow. I found out there's a slasher movie about a sloth.
Yeah.
Bitch,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Look, the hair didn't know. The hair didn't know that the turtle had it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Seen everyone you want to see?
Wait, there's a slasher movie about a sloth.
Yes.
I have.
I hate it here.
Sorry for keeping you up.
What do you mean? You got to be next
Now,
level of sorry
there's
to die
just
to a sloth.
one last
So
matter.
is it like a
What
slow
Connor spoke to you
sloth
about.
and they died to a sloth?
I'm sure he made it abundantly clear, but I'm completely serious.
Because I'm confused. Is it, I was about to say, is it genetically modified? Like, what are we talking about?
It's called Slaughterhouse.
Slaughterhouse? Get the fuck out, bro.
Slaughterhouse.
No, stop. Just fucking no.
Got you. Hold on.
No, absolutely not.
No. The popcorn meter has it at a 69%.
It's not a 0?
No.
Bro.
As
Forgot what the
bonkers
name of-
as bonkers as a killer, geez, Slaughterhouse delivers B-movie thrills to gore lovers and Greek life haters alike.
Get the fuck out.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember seeing the things for this. And it's PG-13. That's so funny.
Get out.
You watching the trailer?
I want you to stay in Tulichola with me.
Sounds like a movie night.
I'm not forcing you, of course. But should you wish it, you always have a place here.
Okay,
that's
all
right.
right. We shall.
This
we
is
shall
for
continue
you.
with
Movie
the
night.
trailer.
A permit granting passage to Chatural, which, as I recall, you've yet to see.
Oh, that's right. We haven't been to Chula.
An adventurer like you could hardly resist, no?
You can't hear it? Hold on. Okay.
I can't
Hold on.
believe our journey is over already.
Hold on.
Yeah, a sloth horror movie.
You
go.
accepted me as a comrade and stood with me to the end. You have my eternal gratitude. Thank you.
Hold on. Let me make sure I'm not fucking dying first before we jump into this fucking trailer.
Better get going. I need to start learning all my official Dawn servant duties. I'll be sure to share what my old man says about the Golden City too, once he tells me. Till then, feel free to pass the time as you like.
For now, I will remain in Tural. There's someone I'd like to see before returning to Charlie.
To make sure I'm not dying. Okay.
What
Now,
about the rest
back
of
to
you?
this fucking slaughter house. Wait, where did it go? Where did it go? Bruh. Did I close it on accident?
You just did, yeah.
This is dumb as shit.
The puppet's so bad looking too. It's so fucking funny.
It's so terrible.
Reminds me of like Cocaine Bear. I think it's like the same people or something.
This is actually a thing. I can't, bro. Is she driving a car? Bitch, what the fuck?
Look at the breeze in the hair. Look at the breeze in the hair. Oh, you know that cop dead. What the hell?
Get the get out.
See, that's what those drink lids is what I just gave you were for.
And it's not going to take effect that immediately. Yeah, you either this movie this got to be a movie when you're high or drunk. I have to be drunk as shit.
Oh my god.
I have to be drunk as hell.
Okay, let me finish my cutscene.
I also intend to
I got
remain
sidetracked.
longer. As educational as this experience has been thus far, we feel there are even more lessons to be had for Garlemald.
The way that damn sloth teleported, like literally
By
instant
hearing about the peace
transmission
your father
around the fucking
facilitated,
room.
And then seeing you reforge
when it goes to
relations
actually
with
attack you,
Mamuk,
it's like
we were reminded of a profound truth. That is, acceptance.
Just
begins
imagine
with
making the film and they had to position one space and then they had to move them and then film again and then move them and film again.
There are unexpected yet effective ways for two sides to understand each other.
Oh my gosh.
The question is how to encourage it.
Scary movie stupid.
And by
This is
seeing
scary
more of
movie
this
stupid.
nation born of unity, we hope to find
This is
some
scary movie
hints.
stupid. For sure. And it's gonna become a cult classic.
Personally, I can hardly wait.
I think it came out in 2023.
Oh
So, if I
shit.
may,
Oh, them
I'd like
vampires
to
is
stay
level
until
31.
Leolam
Oh
as
my
well.
god. Bitch, run.
By all means, your rooms are at your
Did
disposal.
it, you
for
said
as
it came out
long as you need them.
2023?
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
And what of you? Thinking of
I thought
touring
this was something that was
Chaptural,
coming out
perhaps?
recently. I've never heard of this movie.
Of course. You're hardly the type to leave half a continent unexplored.
Then perhaps we could travel together? The
Well,
person I
maybe
intend to meet is
COVID
my
really
mentor,
ruined us?
so
Yo,
I'll
this
be
shit is
visiting
crazy.
my hometown in Chaptural.
This is so
If you
scary
have
movie
no
coded, it's
particular
not even
destination
funny.
in mind, I'd be happy to guide you en route.
This is so scary movie coded.
Then it's farewell for now.
Here
Take
it
care,
goes.
all of you.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Are we dying?
Oh. Oh no. Oh my god. Oh, my god.
Oh, we're on fire. Oh.
Oh my god. Girl, roll. Roll, bitch. Roll. Oh my god, in the water, in the water, in the water, in
When
the
you're
water.
ready, come and meet me at the Chaptural Skygate.
You got down to 12 health.
Girl. And I'm nowhere near where I need to be. They knocked my pal out. Pal dead. I don't know if I can get back up. Not kill him with the clap. Hello?
We're friends to the end, you hear me? Friends to the end!
We're friends to the end.
Not kill him with the clap. That's crazy. I didn't realize that there were two big ass birds up above me. Lord. That's Asha, you came in at a crazy time. You came in at a wild time.
Where'd Steve go?
I'm right here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's right here. What are you talking about?
He's right there.
No, I need to go to bed.
Is it bedtime?
Yeah, it's. I'm questioning finishing this drink.
Oh, it's one of those nights.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Then he wants to be up at 8 to watch the concert.
You want to be up at 8?
He does.
I mean, I'll be up regardless.
Yeah, we do have the cat sitter. I'm gonna make sure of it.
I am also playing Power of Noise. I'm looking for Cognito. I don't know if I'm gonna find him, but I'm looking for him. I don't really see him anywhere around here, though.
Meanwhile, in the Stargate,
I found Cognito. He's level 20. Oh my fucking god.
I need to find that damn fat bird.
Oh my god. He teleports. He teleports. He teleports. He teleports. He teleports.
Who's messing with the damn Stargate?
Where did he go? Oh my god. Wait. Wait.
Who's messing with the Stargate? Who is it? Who's messing with the Stargate?
He's gonna kill my bird. He's gonna. Oh.
I might have been mistaken.
Please.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, we kind of did forget all about this guy, huh?
Babes, please. Run, run, run. Oh, I'm stuck. Oh, I'm stuck.
Yeah, we did kind of forget about this guy.
Oh, I'm stuck.
Zaral Ja?
Get up there. Get up, get up, get up, get up. My lamb is about to die. Oh my shit. I can't see.
Oh no. Yeah, we did kind of just go back and become Dawn Servant and then forgot about this guy that was the other one that was trying to go for it.
Please. Please. Yes! Oh my fucking god. Alright, I'm done. This bird needs his beak twisted. I'm done. Oh. Fuck. I'm going back.
Just don't read my previous messages.
Girl, what are you talking? What are you talking about?
Mellow. That's so funny.
Just to read my previous messages? Oh my god. Were you doubting me? Crazy. Wild behavior. There's another Cognito down there. I do not even. Where's the nearest fucking teleport place? Because, baby, the way I'm not running back, I need to go get a Cognito right now. That was scary. That was very scary. He knocked out 3 of my
talking?
pals.
What is happening?
Me? No. I would never. I don't want to fight the Lulumons. I don't want to fight the Lulumons. I don't want to fight. Fuck the Depressos. You don't see me. You don't see me. You
My
definitely don't
boys.
see me.
My boys. Attack
There
her.
are 2 incognitos. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. There are 2. Oh my god. Oh, I'm about to get fucked. I'm about to get fucked in the butt. Oh, there's a 3rd one. Oh, I'm about to get fucked. Right in the booty. Oh. Right in the booty. Right in the booty hole.
Listen, the Depressos are my favorites. They are emo kid millennials in a nutshell. And then when they go into the hot tubs, they're face down.
Hello? I got my bird. That's all I wanted.
And
I got my bird.
their special ability is they chug an energy drink and they work faster. And then they crash out.
And did they crash out?
Yep.
Oh my god.
But
drink espresso to stop the depresso.
But their party hat is great and their glasses. So they're always a good time at a rave, you know?
My god.
Oh shit!
Oh shit!
The betrayal!
Oh, the betrayal! That bitch is dead. Over the edge.
Holy shit!
Over the edge.
Dude, everybody's cutting each other in the back. Holy fuck! The useless tool is cast aside. God damn! He gave you the fucking
fuck that
key.
guy.
Holy
Yeah, fuck that
shit!
guy. Fuck that dude.
Holy fuck!
Yeah. My life. That was so stressful.
But in exchange, what?
Build a PAL workbench. PAL gear workbench.
And then we're back to the fucking jazzy fucking shit.
Jazzy music, baby.
What the fuck, dude?
Jazz music.
Doobie doobie boo boo boo.
All right, kids, I'm out. Have a great one.
Night night.
Good night. I'll probably be behind you soon. It's already 11.
It's 11 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock. Girl. It's 11 o'clock.
Girl. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I think I may have like this idea is dildos. I think I may have overstepped my bounds a little bit. 11 o'clock's 11 T.
Yeah. It had been announced, but they did the trailer.
That's another weird fear I've heard. Apparently, jazz music makes some people really uncomfortable. That's an odd one for me. Does it
Ryan
really?
Reynolds in a Deadpool costume, yeah.
Didn't know that. Build a crusher, build a stone pit, build a logging site.
Aww. I love San Diego Comic-Con. From afar.
Yeah.
From afar. I don't want to
not
go.
from afar.
I don't want to go because it's a fucking madhouse. Lula's down there right now working. Jazz music. You sure they just watched a B movie as a child and it traumatized them? So anytime anybody brings up jazz, it just freaks them out. You like jazz?
On the far side of that great bridge unfolded the wilds of Shaloni.
Oh my god,
where
we're in the
sun
Wild
god
West.
In the Shitonatam. A harsh guide, to be sure, with its blazing rays scorching the land and hardening
Looks
its
at time and
inhabitants.
sees 4 a.m. Yikes.
But sweeping change had come to the arid expanse when, beneath its red crust, vast deposits of ceruleum were discovered. Embracing this opportunity, Vau Kona supporters hurtled on, driven by
Oh my god, this
dreams of a
literally is the
future
Wild Wild West.
illuminated by blue flame. It is here that our journey continues, our path taking us along winding roads of steel. Each length of track a declaration of hope and ambition. My home, Yasulani,
Okay, players
lies
can
past
save
Jeloni.
genetic data of pals as well as
will be a
reconstruct
long
pals
journey,
from saved
but
genetic
the
data.
railroad
The
should
saved
make it
genetic
easier.
data will also be transferred to other worlds. However, more than one pal with the same genetic data cannot exist in the same world. Okay. Okay.
As for the way to the train station,
Not
let's
not
ride these fellows, shall we?
screaming.
Oh, bye, Francis.
Oh shit. I need to build a bed. Real.
Real, 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 real. Listen, we can ride one big old frickin' heifer over here, okay? You don't need
Not
two.
a heifer.
Where's she at? Oh, they're both right here.
This piano is scary type shit.
Both from there. Both from happy.
A big old buffalo. I don't know what to do with myself. Oh no. We got berries. Okay. Production.
Yeah. That's a baby boy. That's a big old baby boy.
Who the big baby boy?
That's a baby boy.
Who the big baby boy? The big baby boy. Oh, look at the baby. It might be about time for me to wrap this shit up too, y'all. It's about that them there time. Cause I'm tired. And I also need to stream before I go to the movie tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at that little baby boy. Steve had to come in and grab him so he could go to bed, because otherwise he can't see without his little baby boy with him.
Oh.
Yeah, look at that little precious boy.
Fifth Element. They're playing Fifth Element in the theaters tomorrow.
So we're gonna go. I'm excited.
I need stone and wood. Not too much, just a little bit.
Yeah, the Fifth Element turns 30. 3-0.
Yep. 3-0. So we're gonna go watch it on the big screen tomorrow. The big screen.
Yep. All the way in the back so we can be obnoxious.
In the back.
When I got the tickets, I think only like 4 other people had gotten tickets.
For who?
The Fifth Element. Because you choose your seats.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't think my friend here is particularly concerned.
They did not do a remake. They're just showing it in theaters right now for their 30th anniversary.
Yeah, Fandango or Fathom puts on these events all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty goddamn neato. All right, let me go build this thing.
It's not already much of an excuse to go see that movie. I love that movie.
What is?
I don't think Indy's ever seen it before though, but that's okay.
No, absolutely not. This is my first time. Totally my first time seeing it.
Yep.
Maybe even incognito. Ooh, I see what you did there. See what you did there, friend.
Okay, let me get to this first town here in the Wild Wild West.
What is he fighting right now? What is he doing?
My little fat cat.
Is he supposed to be doing the logging? Because I don't know what he's doing.
Hold on, I gotta see this.
I think he might be broken.
Who?
One of my pals. I think one of my pals might be broken.
Which one?
Become a proper town.
He's the little puppy doggy over here. He's doing something.
Oh yeah. They still haven't fixed that yet.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be logging.
Yeah, he is logging. He's just not in his exact spot. It's like when they go to water plants or go harvest plants, and they're like completely on the other side of the whole area, just shooting water out their face, you know, at nothing.
Yep, that's fair. Gotcha. Wow. Okay, I need stone.
Now hold on a minute.
I need stone.
Now hold on. Hold on a minute.
We might be having fun.
You ain't from these parts.
Not you. Not you. Not from around here. Hello.
Some sort of trouble.
Some sort of trouble?
I thought you was logging out for the night.
You old bastard.
I was gonna get to this first town, but I have to do more MSQ in order to get to this first town. You old bastard! Ooh.
Give me strength.
No.
What is that face? Hold on.
About stamina.
And
we're back. I got some platinum out of that.
What is this? Oh. Every time I go to your DMs and I see that fucking meme, it cracks me up too. What is this face?
Lol. What is this face?